Ang nakakalungkot ngayon, facts are not persuasive. We've always thought that they're enough. No, sinabi ko sa isang talk na parang our biggest tragedy is we have to defend facts. Facts have to be carried by a narrative for people to latch on to them.
Some of the films are commissioned, some of them are self-produced, but the fact is these narratives are at the heart of a well-oiled machinery. No, for ideally, of course, information dissemination and branding, but of course, they're also used for myth-making and propaganda.
Hi everyone, welcome to Persuasion and the Polls, the rhetorical work of objects and bodies in the Philippine elections. This is a series of online discussions focused on identifying, describing, and analyzing political objects and their rhetorical operations in the 2022 electoral race in the Philippines. I'm Charles Ladia, Assistant Professor at the Department of Speech Communication and Theater Arts, University of the Philippines, Diliman, and I will serve as the moderator in this episode. So this episode focuses on the rhetorical potential of visual narratives like films, biopics, and even new video platforms like YouTube and TikTok. So we ask questions like, why do voters buy stories narrated using these media platforms? And to what ends do politicians use these platforms and visual narratives to their own end? So we have two experts in this matter. Our first panelist teaches film at the UP Film Institute. He is the author of Break It to Me Gently, Essays on Filipino Film, and the editor of the Ang Docu, a festival of Philippine documentaries, both of which are dedicated to the articulation of issues and histories related to the cinema of the Philippines. As a writer and critic, he has participated in various film festivals in Asia and Europe. Please welcome to our panel, Assistant Professor Richard Bolisay.
Hi, thank you Charles. Salamat sa pag-imbita sa akin. Sa hapong
Thank you. Our second panelist is an assistant professor at UPDS-CTA, where he teaches public speaking and persuasion, instructional communication and technology, and oral interpretation and performance. He is the current Associate Dean for Public Affairs of the College of Arts and Letters and an edu-content creator on TikTok. We have Assistant Professor Marvin Ray Olaes.
Hi, good afternoon. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat at sa inyo din, Sir Richard and Sir Charles.
Yeah, so this will be a very exciting, hopefully fun-filled discussion for everyone, no? As we talk about visual narratives as forms of persuasion, of memory, and resistance, especially this May 2022 elections. So balikan muna natin in the last 6 years, no? In the 2016 national elections, stories became selling points for politicians. Now, we hear narratives like Duterte, the drug lord slayer, the first president from Mindanao, tapang at malasakit as his character, no? To Leni Robredo, simple, nakachinelas, and nagbo-boost stories. Why are narratives essential in persuasion and politics?
Narratives are essential in persuasion simply because they work. No, gumagana ang mga narratives. Storytelling is a tried and tested means to convince people, from the Bible, no, to Jollibee commercials, no, hashtag anong kwentong Jollibee mo. It's the oldest trick in the book. Naalala ko nung bata ako, pag sinasabihan ako ng mga matatanda sa amin na wag kang makulit, they won't stop there. Sabihin nila, wag kang makulit, kukunin ka nung basurero dyan. Very problematic, di ba? Pero thinking about it now, pero naalala ko talaga, sabihin, kukunin ka nung basurero dyan. At they won't stop there. They'd say, nakita ko kanina, merong bata, ang tagal na nawawala, umiiyak nga yung nanay niya kasi ang kulit-kulit niya. And it worked, at least for a couple of years or months maybe. Pero ang matindi dito, natatandaan ko siya hanggang ngayon. Narratives are essential in persuasion because narratives work.
Dagdagan ko lang yung sinabi ni Professor Marvin, I think sa narrative din yung una kong taste of racism. Kasi yung version sa amin noon, kukunin ka ng Bombay. Diba?
Yes.
Kumbaga parang nag-create na siya ng image of, Indian people as villains, as thieves, no? And doon ko ipapasok na we are surrounded by narratives, no? Like all our lives, bata, paglaki, nag-aaral ka sa school, magtatrabaho ka, sa lahat ng aspekto ng buhay natin, we're surrounded by narrative. In fact, it's so ubiquitous that we don't notice them or we become really passive to them. Sa literature tsaka sa film studies, no, there's a thing called narrative theory, no. So, yung pinag-aaralan nito yung paraan ng pagkukwento, no, how stories and the telling of stories shape our perceptions of the world, no, and the world itself, no. Yung mga kwento, yung mga storya, paano ba nito natutulungan yung tao na, bigyan ng kahulugan yung mundo nila, no? How people make sense of the world, no? And tulad ng journalism, mahalaga sa narrative theory yung 5 Ws and 1 H, no? Ano yung kinukwento, saan kinukwento, bakit kinukwento, kailan kinukwento, at paano kinukwento, no? So magkaiba yung kwento at narrative. Kasi ang narrative is already a shaped story. So mayroong structure, may pattern, no? And it manifests in different forms like anecdotes, parables, myths. Kaya yung sinabi ni Prof. Marvin na Bible, no? Yan, it's the very core of what we know as narrative, no? Many of what we know as narratives nagmanifest dun sa naririnig natin sa nanay, sa simbahan, no? So it's really in the core of our lives, no? And there's a way to study these narratives, no? Paano sila nagiging effective, no? And siguro to add an example, kung sasali ka ng isang reality show, let's say Pinoy Big Brother, or ang luma nung reference ko, but Star in a Million. Diba?
Eric Santos pa yan.
Oo, Sherin Reyes, hindi ka lang dapat magaling kumanta. Ano ba yung kwento mo? Taga saan ka? Mahirap ka ba? Diba? Ganun yung bebenta sa tao. Bahagi siya ng paano ka binibenta, no, sa taong bayan.
Very interesting yun, kasi may intersection yung sinabi ni Sir Richard na narrative theory sa film at yung perspective sa rhetoric na people are homo narrans. No, we believe stories more than any other means of persuasion. Also, we persuade other people through stories. At alam naman natin ang politika din, no? It's a battle of stories. It's a battle of power and influence. So, ibaba natin yung persuasion and narrative sa politics, no? Gaano ka-importante yung pagkikwento, sinasabi ni Sir Richard kanina, paano magkwento, sinong nagkikwento, when we talk about politics now?
Ang nakakalungkot ngayon, facts are not persuasive, no? I mean, we've always thought that they're enough, no? Sinabi ko sa isang talk na parang our biggest tragedy is we have to defend facts. And that's true. Kasi parang facts have to be carried by a narrative for people to latch on to them. And yun yung frustration kasi we're battling with like people who distort history, who revise history, and I think that's something that we uniquely experience now, no? I mean, time ni Duterte, no, people say social media was a big influence on his victory as president, and though no one is denying his victory, no, talagang a lot of things have happened on social media that helped him get there, no? And we're all part of it.
Yes, we are all audiences to a certain story then of President Duterte. What about you, Sir Marvin? How do we now apply the intersection of persuasion and narratives in politics?
Voters love stories. No? Gustong-gusto nila yan. Stories stick, narratives stick to people. Ngayon nga, at the top of my mind, ang daming bumabalik na mga narratives, no, ng mga iba't ibang mga politicians. Pero ako kasi, growing up, ang mga naaalala ko, era para sa mahirap at ang kanyang wristband, no? Napatunayan na siyang nakulong na siya, na-impeach na siya ng taong bayan, nagka-EDSA 2. Pero nung tumakbo siya bilang mayor ng Maynila, era para sa mahirap pa rin. Yun mang mas tumatak sa mga tao, kaya nanalo ulit siya. Kahit na pag naglilinis siya ng Manila Bay, tinatapon din lang naman ng mga basura niya. Planted rin lang yung mga basura niya, di ba? But we don't remember that. We remember era para sa mahirap. And of course, his movies. Siyempre, hindi mawawala yung yellow ng mga Aquino. Hindi ba? Nag-confetti ng ganyan. Marami nung EDSA, the tie a yellow ribbon. Isa pa sa mga pinaka-naaalala kong mga narratives na talagang very powerful, nagdumikit talaga sa akin growing up, ay nakaligo ka na ba sa dagat ng basura? Di ba? Parang si Villar, naglalagay siya ng mga qualifications for being a president doon. Nakaligo ka na ba sa dagat ng basura? Pasko ka na ba sa gitna ng kalsada?
Yes.
And all of other stories, no? Di talagdag ko lang doon yung nabanggitin kanina ni Sir Richard na yung epic story from this legendary mayor from Davao. Hindi ko siya kilala before pero sobrang overwhelmed at gulat na gulat ako. Sino ba siya? Parang sobrang interesado ako sa kanya just because of the stories that I hear from other people. Siyempre hindi pa ako ganun kababad sa social media kumpara ngayon, di ba? At saka siyempre nandyan, di ko rin makakalimutan si Grace po na tatak FPJ daw siya.
Yes.
Whatever that means, right? So whether we like it or not, narratives stick to us because narratives are not just like any information na ibibigay sa atin. Hindi sila parang data na binary 1-0 ganyan. Narratives are experienced. They are lived. They are embodied by people, di ba? They're katulad ng sinabi ni Sir Richard kanina, yung process kasi ng storytelling, whether you're from the receiving or the giving end, ang total human experience siya. Tsaka di ba dun sa learning pyramid, yun ang pinaka-ma-retain mo if you experience something as opposed to meron ka lang nabasang isang salita or data or merong sinabi sa'yo, mas dumidikit siya sa karanasan kumpara sa simpleng presentasyon ng mga datos. And we are wired to make sense of these stories so that when we are presented with these stories, lalo na syempre kung maganda ang pagkakakwento, kung compelling siya, at saka yung topic ay malapit sa puso ng taong nakwentuhan, the human brain does not only receive it, but interacts with the narrative, no? Automatically, we try to unpack it. Automatically, we try to make sense out of it. Pag natapos na yung storytelling session, you try to imagine and reimagine it. At i-reinterpret mo pa by passing the story to another person. Kaya effective talaga ang storytelling or yung pagbubuo ng mga ganitong narrative sa politics because this is how politicians gain loyalists. This is how they cult followers. This is how they gain voters.
Siguro gusto ko itawid doon sa politics because narratives don't have to be true, no? And yun yung nakakalungkot isipin, no? And it's something very vulnerable to manipulation. And example ko nga yung kay Villar, no? Tumatak din talaga siya sa akin, no? Imagine someone na may-ari ng isang katutak na subdivision na businesses, fronting, foregrounding yung yung nakaligo na siya sa dagat ng basura. Whatever, kumbaga parang whatever, can you even prove that, no? But it doesn't matter to people, no? Yung image, yung kanta, yung mga bata, no, sa Manila Bay, no? Those are the images that really, stuck to people. And I think hindi naman siya nanalong presidente at that time.
Yes.
But imagine, nag-invest siya, naging senator siya, asawa niya naging senator, yung anak niya tumatakbong senator ngayon. No, kumbaga parang it's not something for the short term, no? It's something really for the long haul.
Kita-kita naman natin on how these politicians also are very strategic storytellers. No, they know what stories to tell, which stories to tell for particular people. At mamaya balikan pa natin yung mga specific campaign stories na iyan. Let's go first, Sir Richard, sa long format of the visual narrative. No? Nauso before, in terms of kapag tatakbo ka, your life story is shown as a film. No? Ang one of the early examples nito, yung kay Ferdinand Marcos, Iginuhit ng Tadhana, no? Na award-winning film pa pala ito noong 1965. No? And then recently, we have, of course, Lenny Robredo and Maalaala Mo Kaya, no? Even sa film series sa television. And even now, Scott Moreno has his own Yorme. No? What is the role, Sir Richard and Sir Marvin, of films in persuading the public?
Sige, mauna na ako para mailabas ko na to, no? Sabi nila, it's a sign that you made it kapag ginawa ng pelikula yung buhay mo, no? Or ginawa na siyang storya para mapanood ng tao, no? If there's someone playing you, no? So with Isko, there's Sian Lim, no? With, with different people, ganon. There's a celebrity attached to your story. And lagi kong sinasabi sa students ko, no? Lumaki tayo sa idea na films are reflections of reality. So sobrang crucial nun why do we see films as reflections of reality? It's about time we correct it, no? Films are constructions of reality. Hindi niya nire-reflect yung reality. It's something constructed. It's something, like created by people. There's someone behind that story. And nag-work yung Iginuhit ng Tadhana noong 1965 dahil film ang mass medium at that time, no? If you want to like influence people or sway people towards a particular ideology, you use the most effective means, no? And it's a matter of like showing one film and influencing, hundreds of people. We might think that's a small number then compared to now because of YouTube and TikTok, no, social media. There's a wider reach, no? But, this is the early days, no? And imagine, napanood ko nga yung clip, no? I don't know if the film still exists, no? But I've seen some clips, and the one on YouTube, the one posted by the Bongbong Marcos page itself, no? We are only seeing a scene, no? We don't really see the whole film, no? And Marcos Jr. speaks in Taglish. He's not even speaking in Ilocano. He's playing himself. And kung papanoorin mo siya ng walang context, no? Walang context ng martial law, how the Marcoses plundered the country, you would think that kid is cute and charming, no, and funny, no? And if you're not discerning enough as an audience, no, parang you would, if you just look at the comment section, 'di ba? I mean, yun na yung yun na yung parang sign that okay, they're believing in a particular ideology, they believe in the propaganda. But if you consider the context, the subtext, and all of that, no, you would realize that this is really a very dangerous propaganda. No, it's something that has been used to to influence people, to distort history, no? Kumbaga parang part ng pag-iimpluwensya ng tao, yung makita nila this figure larger than life, no? Kasi yung konsepto din ng biopics, no, is really to present a character. You're not really presenting a person, no? I mean, musical and all that, no? I mean, it's really, pandering to a particular kind of audience.
I'd like to take off from Sir Richard's discussion on the nature of film, nung sinabi niya na hindi naman necessarily totoo or hindi necessarily reflection ito ng society na accurate, di ba? Kasi some of the films are commissioned, some of them are self-produced, dito mga kandidato na to. But the fact is, what we have to remember is that these narratives are at the heart of a well-oiled machinery. No, for ideally, of course, information dissemination and branding, but of course, they're also used for myth-making and propaganda. Diba? Yung pagbubuo ng mga mito, pagbubuo ng mga storya, not necessarily coming from facts, from real-life events, hindi ba? Pero ito kasi ginagamit siya as a performative showcase of personal identity, of history, and of course, the intention of the person. And they always have an agenda. Diba? Pwedeng to beautify the name, to whitewash a certain part of history, to perfume a certain candidate, mas makilala siya, maging mahusay siya pero hindi ka kilala, so gawin natin siyang household name. Popular siya pero meron siyang mga bad track record, so pabanguhin natin yung pangalan niya. Now, it's very important that we realize that these narratives are curated. These narratives are strategized talaga. Dumadaan to sa proseso ng ideation, ng strategy, ng production. Ang dami-dami pinagdadaanan nito. Lalo na itong mga ganito, yung mga long form, no, ng mga content katulad ng mga films, katulad ng mga maalaala mo kaya series. Zooming out of it, no, if we look at it, long format videos provide a veil of legitimacy. Lalo na pag mapapanood mo na siya sa sinihan, pag mapapanood mo na siya sa TV. Whether or not they're 100% fact or 100% accurate, parang nagiging legit siya sa mata ng viewer. Kasi katulad ng sinabi ni Sir Richard, no, you've made it. Meron tayong ganong perception. Ngayon na nga pag nasa Netflix ka, di ba, sir? You've made it na rin pag nasa Netflix ka. Meron na tayong ganong perception. And I think that is the relationship of the public with traditional media platforms. One of the best ways to examine these visual narratives is to look at audience engagement or how the public interacts with these content. Halimbawa, tinignan natin ang audience engagement sa isang documentary. Halimbawa, kung iisipin ko, kailan ba ako nakanood ng isang documentary? Una, nanood ako ng documentary dahil gusto ko siyang mapanood, 'di ba? So in terms of audience behavior, yung audience ay committed, 'di ba? Kasi pumunta ako dun sa sinihan eh. Number two, I am a captive audience. Nakaupo ako sa sinihan or sa CCP, for example, nanonood ako ng isang documentary. So I am committed and I am captive. So merong ganung dynamics din na kailangan nating tignan. At dahil nga baka nagbayad pa ako para mapanood ang documentary or film na yon, syempre meron ng yung foot in the door, no? No, dahil nga nagbayad na ako, parang one step na to na ma-persuade ako eh. So merong probability that if I watch it baka meron daw akong tanggapin doon na positive kasi nga nabayaran ko na siya. O kaya halimbawa, ni-require siya ng teacher ko. So the ethos of my university or the ethos of my teacher will bleed into, merong chance na mag-bleed into the subject of the story din. Kasi ni-require siya ng school ko eh. So meron chance talaga na mas maniwala tayo at mas yakapin natin ang mga ganitong narratives. Halimbawa naman, Sir Charles and Sir Richard, kunyari, palagi ko doon sa mga MMK naman na TV naman siya, no? So hindi ako lumabas ng bahay para panoorin siya. Hindi ako bumili ng ticket para panoorin siya. Pero nasa comfort ako ng bahay ko. Una, nasa TV siya. Alam naman natin na TV nation kasi talaga ang Pilipinas. So nakaglue talaga tayo sa mga TV natin. So nagiging household name yung mga bagay na to. Lalo na kung makarating sila sa MMK. Na MMK, it's the longest running program of its kind, hindi ba?
Yes.
Kasi nga, we love these stories. We love the rags to riches formula of these stories. We love the kahit anong mangyari, hindi hadlang ang kahirapan na pagtagumpayan ko ang mga ganitong bagay, formula of MMK. And because of that, parang mas napapalapit sila sa Filipino audience.
Tingin ko dahil din sa internet era, no, medyo nag-shift na din yung mga bagay, no? Like yung TV natin, cellphone na, kumaga parang yung accessibility mas nagbabago. Pero nandun pa rin yung core, no? And I think it's in every person's, experience to know kailan ba tayo nagiging critical, sa mga bagay na papanood natin. Kasi like in the early years of our lives, we're not really critical. When we're young, we just watch, we absorb these ideologies. Most of the time, we imbibe them, no? Hindi tayo nagsa-start na perfect, no? Or at least, no, parang tama. And yung kakabit doon yung yung TV tsaka pelikula, kakabit yan dun sa worship culture, no? We tend to like idealize and idolize what we see in these platforms because we think of them as something, bigger than us, larger than life, no? Kumbaga parang faith, no? Sa faith, 'di ba? There's a God at the center, and somehow, we employ that kind of behavior towards a particular, politician, no? So parang faith-based din, no? Kabit pa rin siya dun sa kultura natin na may tendency tayo, to really revere someone to the point of losing our criticality, which is something very crucial when you're electing someone, right?
Dahil doon sa sinabi ni Sir Richard, kaya merong advantage yung mga artista turned politicians.
Yes.
So, di ba, we have ERAP, we have FPJ.
Oh.
Yes, Isko, di ba?
Moreno.
Kasi they have been in the storytelling game for a long time now. Naunahan na nila yung mga kalaban nila ngayon kasi dati pa nakapag-produce na sila ng kanilang certain narrative. So yung narrative na pinapakalat nila ngayon or yung narrative tungkol sa kanila ngayon, continuation na lang siya ng mga naitanim ng mga narratives or little stories about them in the past, dun sa kanilang mga nagawang stories, sa kanilang mga nagawang films about them. Kahit nga hindi tungkol sa buhay nila, yung film na yon, medyo na-associate na ng mga tao dahil sa kanila, hindi ba? So, ayun.
So, ang ganda ng discussion natin, lalo na sa layers and connections ng persuasion, narrative, and politics. Lalo na yung sinasabi ni Sir Marvin and Sir Richard na it's a myth-making propaganda machine for some politicians. No, they use that in order to tell a story that their followers, or in some way, some of them would worship them in the middle of their political faith as well. Pero it's also very important to highlight the humanizing aspect of these long-form videos, no? Nai-in-love din pala siya, 'di ba? Nagkaka-heartbreak din pala siya nasasaktan din pala itong mga politicians na ito. And this not only humanizes but also helps them identify with the greater public out there. Balikan ko, si Sir Richard kasi meron siyang mga papers on Aldab and JD, no? Sa Plaridel, I've also read that. Sir Richard, itong paglabas ng mga artista at magiging politiko sila, no? Paano natutulungan ng mga artists turned politician, paano sila natutulungan ng mga media forms na ito to characterize themselves as such paglabas nila sa film industry?
Okay, good question, no? Kasi like may intersection talaga tong celebrity culture at politics, no? Kumbaga, can you imagine, since yung example naman natin ay very of our era, someone like 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐵 Madrigal from way back winning as senator because she was endorsed by Judy Ann Santos, no less, no? I mean, one of the greatest actors of our, of our cinema. So imagine, no, I didn't know her at the time. Many people didn't know her. But the fact that someone like Juday endorsed her, like raised her hand in a commercial, that made so much influence on people that they decided to, vote for her. And I think eventually when her being senator lapsed and ended, she ran for, as president and she wasn't endorsed by Judy Ann anymore. She didn't win, no? Kumbaga parang ano yun eh. Like there's a lot of issues, connected with, being a celebrity and stating your stand and, like being visible to people. Kasi part din talaga ng visual narratives yung visibility. Like yung time ni Duterte noong 2016, no, yung I am this person and I am Duterte, no. Kumbaga parang laking impact, no. It's really something that, that adds, no, that really carries a politician towards winning something. And it's something that we will see what is effective in 2016. It's not certain if it's going to be the same dynamic at this time, no, in 2022, no. I think a lot has happened between 2016 and 2022, especially after, like Cambridge Analytica with Facebook, no. Kumbaga parang ano to eh, like hindi mo sa dami no nag-endorse kay Leni Robredo sa ngayon, no, is that even a certain thing that she can win the election, no? Like with Marcos Jr., I can only think of Tony Gonzaga, no? But like it's something that worries you because it's no longer the same, dynamic.
Yes. Pag-usapan natin yung dynamics na ito, Sir Richard and Sir Marvin, no? In the previous elections, what particular visual narratives do you remember? And what about these narratives that you think earned people's votes?
Kung pupuntahan naman natin yung mga visual narratives, for example, sa social media advertisements, I look at it as direct marketing. Para kang kumatok sa bahay or para kang tumawag sa telepono para magbenta. Because these sponsored posts, these posts that you see on your For You page on TikTok, bunga sila ng algorithm. Ngayon nga, pag nagtitingin ako dun sa aking TikTok, wala na ako nakikita tungkol sa ibang kandidato dahil lang nag-like ako sa isang person, no? So na-filter niya na. So kung titignan mo yung mga taong nag-i-interact din sa TikTok, parang nag-echo chamber tuloy siya na nare-reinforce lang. So loyalists remain loyal kasi yun din lang yung nakikita mo. Kung titignan naman natin yung mga microvloggers and yung mga influencers na nagpo-post, yung mga endorsements na pinag-uusapan natin kanina, they take care of the authenticity and the organic virality, no? So yung mga tao parang mas maniniwala kasi hindi nakakatulad dati na kayang magdala ng isang Judy Ann Santos nang hindi natin kakilalang si 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐵 Madrigal, no offense. Sigurado ako meron naman siyang track record pero hindi ko siya kilala before Judy Ann, before 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐵, di ba? But right now, in the digital age, kung saan mas nagiging pantay-pantay na yung authority ng mga tao, we can easily call out celebrities, we can tag them in our posts. Kahit nga si Pope, natatag ng mga tao sa Twitter para sabihan siya or magtanong sa kanya. So para nagkakaroon tayo ng level playing field, no? Sa Twitter. Also because we are at home doing it, so merong physical and psychological distance, emboldened tayo ng anonymity natin or at least ng avatars and names. And because of that, mas nagiging rabid yung mga supporters in disseminating information or stories about the people they believe in.
Yes, and bago si Sir Richard, no, may certain aspect din of validity yun kasi nakikita mo pare-pareho kayo ng pinopost, no? Nakikita mo kaya a lot of people are now questioning public polls, no, na parang bakit ang dami
Yes.
ko namang nakikitang supporter pero sa public polls hindi siya nagtra-translate because there
Yes.
is a community that these narratives are creating based on what you're saying na algorithmic aspects din. So iba na rin yung audience ngayon, iba na yung environment where they're
Yes.
subscribing to these things.
Yes, that's your confirmation bias, no? So pag may
Mm-mm.
nakita ka sa TikTok, ang tatanggapin mong narrative doon ay yung nag-i-inline doon sa iyong mga current beliefs mo na. At ito nga, yung confirmation bias sa iyo ay nire-reinforce ng algorithm ng social media. So the visual narratives that you get on social media, specifically with platforms like TikTok, are curated for you para hindi ka umalis doon kasi gusto mo yung nakikita mo.
Everything is mediated for us on social media, no? Sometimes you even doubt yourself, di ba? Kasi nga parang there are so many things around. What you see is, just part of an echo chamber because you've liked something, because you tweeted about something. Technically, you attract the same, no? And somehow you tend to understand why people are radicalized, why people believe strongly about the lies spewed by another candidate. And gusto ko rin sabihin that there are candidates or there is a candidate that got ahead of other candidates in terms of the machinery, no? Yung misinformation and disinformation. This is not something that can happen overnight, no? This is not something that can happen in a year even, no? So a candidate has already planted something, has worked its way up towards the minds of people, understands how this works, no? So iginuhit ng tadhana, imagine, 1965. Marcoses already know how to do that, no? Ang nilagay ko nga dito, that film was released in the provinces in August 1965. Ferdinand Marcos was elected in December 1965. So imagine that 4 month gap, no? I'm not saying that the film made him win, no? But you can see the proximity, no? Parang may effect siya. And in the same way, yung field natin ngayon, no, like on the lead up to the elections in May, I mean there's a lot that can still happen, no?
Ipasok na natin yung mga 2022 campaign narratives ngayon, no? Of course, we've talked about 𝐏𝐸𝐸. Pag-usapan natin yung mga main commercials nila, no? For 𝐏𝐸 Moreno, ako si 𝐏𝐸. No, what are the things that you think were effective? Kasi for me, when I watched it, sabi ko, ay, ang ganda naman ng narrative nung ako si 𝐏𝐸, no? So what are the things that you observed in 𝐏𝐸's narratives?
Well, part naman ng every 𝐏𝐸 narrative is yung pogi siya, di ba? Kumbaga parang it's something that he plays with very well. If you remember yung Jessica Soho interviews, no? Hindi siya naka-mask, no? It's one way of really emphasizing, showing what he has, no? And if you see his face, no, like, I mean, there's something artista siya, no? There's something charming about him, how he speaks, no, very very masculine. And sabi ko din kanina, yung basurero narrative, 'di ba? Parang okay, nagawa na 'yan, but still, no, it's something that people can easily relate to, no? Kahit hindi sila basurero. There's that idea of, like climbing up the ladder of society, no? Ako si �սկo, tayo si �սկo, no? Pero kasi ang bawat election, it's a battle of narratives, no?
Yes.
Like, yung rags to riches, it can work best at a particular time, but if there's a better narrative, if there's a better machinery, if there's a more cunning, a cunning set of people, propagating lies, that could win. So for example, yung pinwheel ni Marcos Jr., no? Like, that simple act, no? Kumbaga parang it's really umiikot yung pinwheel and then bumabalik sa kanya. It signifies the return to power, no? Kumbaga parang naririnig natin yung umagang kay ganda, naririnig natin all this really nice music and like, images of people hopeful about the future. But at the end of it all, it's really that narrative of like, let's put him back to power. Let's put back the Marcoses to power. And I think that's effective, no matter how much I really, I can see how people can be persuaded by that. On the other hand, the controversial ad of Lenny, yung Hadouken, no? I mean,
Yes.
I was vocal about liking that, no, and I like it in a different way, no. I can see na parang trying to be light, trying to be like not so presidential, and I think that's yun din yung reason ba't nag-backfire siya. Kasi may konsepto tayo ng ano ba dapat ang itsura ng presidente. And again, we still have sexism and misogyny in the society. No? Our standards for women are different for our standards of men. And we're very used to seeing men in power, men in these positions. No? And I think for a woman to do something like that, no, parang it's problematic. But if Era Estrada does it, it's cute, it's relatable, it's accessible. So these particular things reveal those, double standards, those very problematic double standards.
Yes. I like how Sir Richard also emphasized on the characterization. Like for example, Isko, 'di ba? Na talagang siya yung prinsipe, mestizo, 'di ba, in a film that it's also characterized in real life. For BBM being the one who will, sabi, babangon muli, return to the golden age, ang kanyang promise. And Lenny Robredo, sabi nga ni Sir Richard kanina, yung unusualness ang napansin sa kanya. No? Nung nagbali siya, nung expectations, no? Tsaka napansin yung positive and negative aspect of the political narratives that she is creating. Sir Marvin?
Dito sa usapin ng commercial, first I'd like to zoom out, no, doon sa platform. I think the secret dito sa mga ganitong narratives ay the medium itself. Number one, traditional media is, katulad ng sinabi ni Sir Richard kanina, very accessible. So doon pa lang advantage na yung merong makinarya at merong funds na magkaroon ng media placement sa TV at saka sa radio at iba pang mga traditional platforms. Number two, yung legitimacy nga na brought by traditional media. Kasi mapapanood mo siya sa TV na nasa gitna ng bahay nyo o kaya pinapatugtog siya sa radyo at dinig siya ng lahat ng tao. And number three, dahil nga short and catchy siya, napakagandang vehicle niya for yung peripheral route ng persuasion. Katulad ng pinag-uusapan natin kanina. Sabi ni Sir Richard, ang haba-haba masyado nung kay Lenny Robredo na 4 minutes. Walang makakatapos to, walang makakanood doon as compared to the other videos na very short, very catchy. Talagang very peripheral route yung ginamit nila. Talagang gripping, talagang papanoorin mo siya hanggang dulo. Baka pwedeng maluha ka pa or pwedeng ma-excite ka. As opposed to the central route na very logos, na very arguments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no? At dahil dyan, itong mga commercials na ito, napakagandang vehicle niya for the brand making or the myth making. Number two, the mirroring and experience taking for relatability. No? Kasi parang nakikita mo sila eh. Sobrang ganda nung una ko napanood yung kay Isko, yung nag-graduation speech siya. Tapos nililip-sync or minamouth ito ng iba't ibang mga klase ng tao. Ang ganda-ganda kasi parang nakita ko rin yung sarili ko na parang ini-expect ko lalabas ako doon sa next frame. Kasi it's every man. It's a common person. No? Ako yun. At ako rin si Isko. So very well thought of. Ang ganda-ganda ng pagkakagawa niya. Isa pa, yung clips doon ay not all produced, 'di ba? Merong archival aspects ng clip. So nandoon din yung authenticity niya, nandoon din yung okay, legit to, totoo ito at nakikita ko siya. Merong ganung feeling talaga eh pag archival yung mga digital assets na ginamit na parang mas totoo kaysa doon sa put on na dinirect sila, binlock sila, na overproduced and over-directed, ano, na parang ang ganda-ganda masyado. So ang ganda ng timpla ng pagkakagawa ng kay Isko. Next naman ay yung show of force din. Kung maaalala nyo, yung hindi ka nag-iisa music video ni Pinoy, di ba? Yung una ko siyang napanood, at nagulat ako na, lahat ng Star Magic, lahat ng GMA Artist Center, isa-isa na silang lumalabas. Tapos si Ate Reg pa yung bumibirit, di ba? So parang nung first time ko siya napanood, sobrang nagulat ako. Kasi parang first time kong nakakita ng ganoon karaming artista. Kung di ako nagkakamali, parang Merong pang sulo sila Dingdong Dantes or something. Naglalakad sila somewhere towards tas ang dulong visual niya ay yung silhouette ni the late Ninoy and Cory Aquino. Commercials are a very good vehicle for these kasi nga ang iksi nila dahil napakamahal nga ng media placement. So talagang you have no other choice but to let go of the central route in persuasion, yung mga detailed arguments, ilalagay mo na lang talaga siya sa CV or biodata or pwedeng mailabas pa siya sa mga debates. Pero pagdating sa commercial, that's why it works because it's gripping, it's interesting, at nakaka-hook siya at you'll recall it. May recall ang mga ganito. Ngayon, naalala ko ang jingle ng Vote for the Champ. Hindi mo sure naaalala.
Alam mo, kinakanta ko siya na past few days.
Diba? May ganun siya.
Wala sa YouTube.
Wala siya talaga? Grabe. Pero naaalala natin siya. Vote for the Champ. Jambi. At kung ano-ano
Pia,
pang mga...
Pia, Cayetano.
Yes. Diba? Natatandaan natin ang mga ganitong bagay. Kasi nga, it sticks to us.
Puntahan ko na, no? Kasi it's also very important that you focused on the platform. At in the recent years, alam naman natin na iba na yung platform, no? Hindi na TV-based ang mga commercials ng politicians ngayon. May YouTube videos na where we see a lot of new influencers, no? Sila na yung nag-i-interview dito sa ating mga candidates, at even TikTok, no? And I'm sure ang TikTok magiging battlefield na siya ngayon ng presidentiables natin. What do you think? Do TikTok and YouTube contribute to our discussion on political visual narratives?
When you were born, he was already in politics.
Yes. I became congressman in 47, and then senator in 57.
That's the time you were born.
That's the year I was born. Yeah.
Thank you po at nabigyan nyo kami ng time today.
Oo naman. Happy ako na nakapunta ako dito sa inyo.
Ako po hindi. Paano po gagawin natin today?
Lugaw, syempre!
Ang weather natin ngayon ay paulan-ulan.
Bagay na bagay. Bagay na bagay.
Opo, Lenny. So, let's get cooking.
Short answer, yes, no, definitely, because especially even heightened by the pandemic, no, we're glued to our screens, no, we're watching everything that catches our eye. Gusto ko lang example yung Tony Talks, no, I really, you know, I'm sure I won't watch that, but for the sake of our discussion, I decided to like listen to it, no, and you know, observe how that show went, no, and titingnan mo pa lang dun sa caption ng video ni Tony Gonzaga, sabi niya, "Happy birthday, Sir BBM. We are grateful to be given the opportunity to hear your story." So kumbaga parang, you know, things that are not debatable, things that are not supposed to matter much because, you know, we already know the facts, no? Someone is given the opportunity to refute it. Someone is given the opportunity to present a different story. In fact, humanizing, you know, it's humanizing him. Pinapakita siya someone na may routine, nag-exercise, no? That it was a happy time during martial law. Nagta-travel siya, seeing royal people, no? And no mention even of like people killed, no? Ill-gotten wealth, no? Kumbaga parang there's really that way to manipulate, you know, a show like that to, you know, overlook, you know, gruesome things that actually happen. Nandun din yung body language, no? Like how Tony was very sympathetic, no? Like facial expression, kinds of questions being asked, no? I mean, she was asking about particular aspects of the martial law and the Imelda Marcos and Ferdinand Marcos time. Pero iba siya eh. Parang, for example, nilista ko siya, ang mga tanong niya, were you scared nung time na yon? No? Tapos sabi ni Bongbong Marcos, no, we chose not to fight, no. Tapos sinanong din niya, how did your father handle this situation? Tapos sabi niya, we're not shooting anyone, no. Yung kalaban, ginigera nila tayo. Tapos yung pinakatumatak sa akin, tinanong siya ni Tony, what are you tired hearing about? Sabi niya, lies that have been disproven. So parang it's an opportunity to really overturn, no, facts, no, what we already know. And in a way, no, kumbaga parang kahit in that simple video, I can really imagine people being persuaded by that, no. Kumbaga parang it's not even talking about platforms. It's not talking about how is he gonna, you know, manage the country once he's elected president. It's really about how do people connect with him? How can people relate to him? And naging underdog story na siya. Kumbaga parang nakita mo na siya as someone na inapi ng lipunan. And yeah, I mean, someone with good intentions for the country, despite, many facts, many court issues, court things na talagang na-prove na.
Maganda ring tingnan yung mga YouTube at TikTok videos sa nature niya, no? Kung paano siya napoproduce din. Unlike documentaries, unlike investigative pieces ng journalists, or even movies, hindi siya masyadong dumadaan sa mechanisms of checks and balances, of fact-checking.
Accountability.
Yes, of course, I'm sure meron silang due diligence sa mga ganyan, I'd like to believe so. But as compared to, let's say, peer-reviewed journals or even news reports, di ba? Kasi ito dumadaan, meron silang mechanism to check these to check the content that they'll publicize. So YouTube videos and TikToks, walang ganong regulation, walang ganong rules masyado. That's why they can easily use the content that they produce through YouTube and TikTok, endorsed by these celebrities, endorsed by these influencers, to steer the narrative. YouTube and TikTok have that power. No, if biopics and documentaries make narratives legitimate, TikToks and netizen-driven narratives make them authentic. This is not only because of the possibility of virality, kasi syempre sa TV, alam natin ngayon na hindi na siya masyadong ganong pumapalo sa ratings as compared to millions and millions of views on social media. But also because of memeability. So ito yung bagong naibibigay ng TikTok doon sa discussion, doon sa pagbubuo, pagsasanitize, doon sa pagbu-beautify, doon sa pag-curate ng mga narratives na ito because of the memeability. When something's a meme, it's not only viral, no? It's viral and people interact with it. People customize it. People personalize it. No, hindi lang siya nade-disseminate, nare-reinterpret siya at nare-reinforce yung narrative. So dahil dito mas nagiging authentic, mas nagiging believable at mas relatable tuloy kasi nakikita mo mga totoong tao yung nagsasalita. Malaki yung naging ambag nitong, for example, yung kay Mimia, di ba? Yung pag-guest ni Lenny Robredo, yung pag-guest ni Bongbong Marcos Jr. sa Tony Talks, di ba? Yung title pa lang, The Greatest Lesson, di ba? From his father. So you already know that there is a certain agenda, there's a certain narrative na objective talaga nila. Merong ambag, yung mga ganyang personalities. But we cannot discount the fact that microvloggers or even just regular netizens na walang following, na wala 100 lang yung followers. So laki din ang ambag nila doon sa pagbibitbit ng mga narratives na ito, pagsasanitize or pag-curate at pag-direct doon sa mother narrative na gusto nilang maabot. The thing with these narratives is that ang dami. Una, ang dami sa TikTok. Pangalawa, dahil nga nagiging meme siya, halimbawa, mayroong isang dance step, no? Na parang ilalagay mo doon kung bakit siya yung iboboto mo, di ba? So pag nalipat na siya sa isang tao, yung nadadagdagan. So we have layers upon layers of narratives that all contribute to the general narrative. And we know what they say. If a lie is told to you a couple of times, multiple times, you end up believing it as truth. At medyo ganun yung nangyayari kung lahat ng stimulus na natatanggap mo, lahat ng information na natatanggap mo, day in and day out, ay ganoon na tinuturo ka, pinupush ka doon sa narrative na iyon.
It na rin siguro, I think, kung identifiability kanina sa films, no? Ito yung mas ownership aspect na sa new platforms like YouTube and TikTok. Siguro punta naman tayo ngayon very shortly na lang kasi nauso nitong mga nakaraang weeks yung mga counter narratives natin, no? Na like for example, yung Vincentiment na Lutang Lenlen, no? It's not basically promoting a candidate, but it has a political message. Sabi nila hindi daw political, but of course in this situation we can do that, no? And Angelica Panganiban's Huwag Magpapabudol series of videos, no? When we put these counter narratives out there, they're not naming names, no? Hindi nila sinasabi sino si Lenlen, hindi nila sinasabi sino yung magnanakaw. What is the rhetorical or the political weight of these counter narratives in our consciousness as voters?
Naloko ka na ba ng pagmamahal sa maling tao? Yung akala mo gold medalist ka na, tapos fake news pala. Nako. Don't me. Alam ko yan. Marami akong entries.
If you're part of the conversation, you will get the context, no? Kumbaga parang sino yung magnanakaw, sino si Lenlen, no? And all that. And actually, I refuse to watch the Lenlen videos. But again, because I don't want to give the views, no? But, for the sake of argument, kita mo talaga na some people are arguing it's a satire, but it's not satire because it's not, it's really mocking, It's really like a horrible way of destroying someone's, reputation. And it's great that it backfired, no? Kasi people are working 18 hours or even more than 18 hours a day. But I can imagine why that video can go viral because it's about chismisan yun eh. Di ba? You're talking about someone and that someone is not there. And it's something na unfortunately everyone can relate to. Di ba? May term nga tayo na marites, di ba? To describe this kind of people. And I think Daryl Yap is cunning, no, in that regard because he knows how to provoke people. He knows what buttons to push to have his films be discussed by people. On the other hand, yung Angelica Panganiban, because it's a clip that speaks to me. It's a clip that aligns with my belief, no? I mean, why would you even vote for a thief, di ba? But, makikita mo na may audience itong, kinakausap. And kung meron silang madala papunta doon, let's say 5 or 500 or 5,000 people, that's already a win in itself, no? Kaya importante yung kaninong views yung papanoorin mo, kaninong platform yung papanoorin mo. Kasi if you succumb to it, that's already giving them the power, no? And by not watching it, no, you hold the power, diba?
Counter-narratives are essential in enriching discourse. Alam natin yan, no? Kaya pwede natin gamitin ng mga counter-narratives na to sa pag-fact check, sa pag-provide ng alternative solutions, or pag-explain ng mga bagay-bagay. Pero makikita din natin na itong mga counter-narratives na to, dito sa mga nakaraang eleksyon, ginamit siya bilang rhetoric of exclusion and deliberate othering, no? Parang you're banking on the contrasts of the narrative and you're using the narrative of the other candidate as foil in highlighting the positive transformation that you will bring kung ano yung mabibigay mo, di ba? So may kita natin yan na sinabi ni Pinoy na dito tayo sa daang matuwid. Of course, that implies the existence of mga ibang mga daan na hindi matuwid, right? Nung dumating si Duterte, sabi niya, change is coming. Ibig sabihin, yung status quo, yung binibigay nung na ito yung bago sa akin, ay hindi na ito yung kailangan natin. No? Ako ang kaya kong magbigay ng change na yon. Merong ding ganyan yung babangon muli. No? Ibig sabihin, nakalugmok tayo ngayon kasi babangon nga tayo muli. Di ba? And angat buhay lahat, yung mga ganitong bagay, they serve the purpose of highlighting the strengths of a particular candidate while banking on the contrast nung other candidate. So doon ko nakikita itong mga counter narratives na ito. We look at the counter narratives that we've seen in these past few weeks. Titingnan din natin kung kanino ba nanggagaling yung mga counter narratives, no? Sino yung source ng counter narratives? Of course, we have Bongbong Marcos saying that I will not engage in negative campaigning, but will utilize a seated senator and other celebrities and different platforms para makapagbigay ng counter narrative nila. You'll also see netizen-driven memes or mga posts to counter the existing narrative from the other party, no? So makikita natin yung intention, yung objective talaga to dismantle existing stories about them.
Siguro part din ng counter narrative yung pagpili ni Leni Robredo ng pink, no? Kumbaga parang yung dilawan na narrative has been so vilified, no? Has been, it's difficult to recover from what people have said or like have piled on, Pinoy and Cory and Dilawan and Liberal Party in general.
Dagdag ko na rin iba pang example, yung lugaw ni Leni.
Yes.
So ang counter narrative niya yon ay Yun, so magmimiya na nagluto talaga siya ng lugaw at gamitin ito ng mga kanyang mga supporters bilang paraan para mas makaabot ng ibang mga tao.
Kitang-kita natin dito, at siguro dito tayo magko-conclude, no, na while these political visual narratives are being strategized by politicians, we would like to argue that it has a life on its own, no? Gumagawa siya ng sarili niyang buhay beyond these politicians, beyond these electorates as well. Sabi nga ni James Phelan, no, narratives are rhetorical because they tell particular story for a particular audience in a particular situation for some particular purpose. At kitang-kita natin sa elections na yung particularity ng mga presidentiables or candidates in choosing the narratives they want to share with other people. Maybe to conclude with our session, what is your message to our viewers right now in terms of receiving these visual narratives? Gaano nga ba dapat sila makialam o tumanggap ng mga narratives na ito?
So gusto ko lang sabihin na for key moments in history, no, hindi lang sa Pilipinas kundi sa buong mundo, narratives have been weaponized. No, it's something that allowed changes to happen in the world, no? So you think of, the Holocaust, no? You think of, US elections, election of Trump, election of Obama, no? This is really about narratives, no? It's no longer just the story, but how you tell the story, no? And sa akin, yun yung mas dangerous, no? Yung kwento kasi that has always been there. No, kumbaga parang yung kwento, nandyan yan ever since the beginning of the time, no? We're aware of these stories. But what matters now is where that story is being told, how that story is being told, and why that story is being told now, no? And it affects our criticality, especially now. Yung nababanggit nga kanina na 15-second na TikTok or 10-second na video, no? I mean, saan doon yung part na nag-iisip tayo? Or nagbabrowse lang ba tayo ulit? Or like we just scroll to another video. So nawawala yung dapat na oras na nilalaan natin para pag-isipan or para i-fact check or para i-absorb yung mga bagay. And I think that's very crucial, no? Yung parang pagkawala nung criticality, no? Kasi ako I teach theory and criticism. So it's something that I feel has drastically changed over time. To end on a hopeful note, no, there's still time. Kumbaga parang there's still time for us to think about our votes, to think about going out of our zones, no? Kasi like echo chamber nga ang social media, ang TikTok, ang YouTube, ang Twitter, no? So like we could spend some time to like looking into other people's platforms, no? Looking into their speeches, looking how they handle questions, and that could give us informed decisions.
Ako naman po para sa mga communication, rhetoric at performance students, lalo na sa mga students namin sa program na nakikinig na ito, political campaigns are a gold mine of narratives and rhetorical artifacts. So that of course go beyond the spoken and text-based symbols. So hanapin natin ito. And it is our duty to chronicle, scrutinize, and try to make sense of these narratives and of course create a snowball of community discussions. Kasama tayo doon. It is very crucial, for us to understand that these are uncharted territories. We are treading uncharted waters. Itong digital age, information age, fourth industrial revolution, kung ano man ang gusto nyong itawag sa kung nasaan tayo ngayon, it is fairly new. No? We are just learning the ropes right now. In fact, huling-huli na ang mga laws natin sa Constitution, ang mga COMELEC rules at iba-iba nating mga guidelines. Nahuli na sila. No? Kailangan na talaga natin mag-update ng ilang mga bagay dahil ang bilis-bilis umikot ng mundo, ang bilis-bilis ng mga pagbabago. Diba sabi nga nila, change is the hallmark of the 21st century, and we're seeing different types of changes in every aspect of our lives. At ultimately, kasama dito yung mga nangyayari ngayon sa ating eleksyon. In fact, this is the first of its kind national elections. For one, we are conducting it during a pandemic. Diba? We are socially distant and we are over-sanitized. Number two, we are conducting it in an infodemic, where narratives katulad ng napag-usapan kanina, where these narratives are weaponized, through powerful, through very pervasive and unregulated platforms. Kasama na dyan syempre ang social media. And we have to be very cautious. We have to be very vigilant. Kailangan natin mag-ingat talaga sa mga ginagawa natin at sa pagtanggap ng iba't ibang mga nakukuha natin online. I think now, more than ever, we are challenged to level up our communication skills. Hindi na uubra yung katulad dati na marunong ka magbasa, marunong ka magsulat, okay na. Right now we are challenged. We are challenged to really level up our communication skills. Reading between the lines, no, napaka-importante. Listening to stories, even the stories that are hidden from you. No, actively participating in discussions, and of course, taking your time and taking space to speak up. Napaka-importante nito. These communication skills are demanded of us during these times. So sana ay isabuhay natin yan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sir Marvin and Sir Richard, for reminding the voters and our viewers that we have a big role for this May 2022 elections. And thank you very much, Sir Richard and Sir Marvin, for this very wonderful discussion, very valuable insights from you two. And this has been your moderator, Charles Ladia, and you can catch the other episodes of Persuasion and the Polls on the website, Facebook page, and YouTube channel of the Department of Speech, Communication, and Theater Arts every Tuesday, 6 p.m. And you may also like, share, and comment on this video. Pwede nyo rin kaming gawing memes if you want. And we would like to thank the UP Diliman Office for Initiatives in Culture and the Arts and the UPDS-CTA for supporting this project. Magbasa, makialam, at bumoto tayong lahat ngayong May 2022. Maraming salamat sa panonood and see you in our next episode.